Alright guys, I promised you some holiday snaps. Look at that. Snaps from my holiday. Actually, no, it's not. This is a bunch of pictures I found digging through one of my drawers and moving stuff around. This was back in the day when you used to take pictures on a camera and go click. I hope that comes out. Send off the film or drop it off. In this case, used to drop it off at Eckerd's. It's like a drugstore. I don't think they're around in Florida anymore. Anyway, so I found these. I wanted to kind of show you. I just took a quick scan through this just to give you a little bit of a backstory. I want to talk about some of the cars and some of anyway, let me go ahead and start showing. Alright, so I'm going to try and keep these in the same position. Try and get here. Alright, so I'll try and keep all the pictures in the same place. I'm going to tell you a little bit about these. Well, I moved to America in 1993, and before I came here, my dream car was a Honda CRX. And I didn't have the money for the second gen CRX, which is the one that you're more familiar with. First car I actually bought here was a Isuzu pickup truck. And long story, I met some people that were owning a car lot, like a used car lot, and I was familiar with cars. I knew how to buy cars and sell cars. I've been doing it since I was very young. You'd be amazed to hear some of my stories of pedaling motorcycles and go-karts and stuff back in England. I was very entrepreneurish. So anyway, they had this truck and I needed a vehicle when I moved to the States. I had a rental car. They made it seem like you cannot buy a car from anybody. You have to go through the right authorities. It has to be you know, like a used car's licensed place. They have to do the paperwork. Basically made me afraid of buying a car off the street, meaning I could never do anything with it. So I bought a truck from them. It was transportation. I spent a lot of time working on it, getting it where it's reliable and make it run. And then they went to the auction and bought this little 84 CRX. Paint was really rough on it, bad interior. I just had to have it. I'm like, whatever I can do to get that. So I traded in the truck against this, paid way more for this little thing than I should have. And then same again, started working on it, redid the interior, painted the outside myself. I was not a painter, but believe it or not, it's a little car. I sanded each individual panel down and used spray can. It was the best spray can I could find at the time. I don't know who made it, but I would sand it, paint one panel, let it cure, wet sand it, buff it, did it panel by panel, and it actually came out really good. Did the silver, did the red in here. I thought it looked the best thing in the world. Didn't have the money for alloy wheels, so these were hubcaps that came on it, repainted the hubcaps. Anyway, I'm going to scan through these and kind of tell you a little bit about what happened. I moved in 93. I think I got this car in 94. Came with my girlfriend at the time. Eventually got our dream car. This was a 1989 CRX SI. I bought this in 1994. Saved and saved and saved. When I say saved, I did without a lot of things to be able to get the cars that I have. A lot of people don't realize. They think when you have a really nice car, you must have a lot of money. Not everybody is like that. There's a lot of people, including myself, a lot of people I know, to get the nice car, they do without so much. And it's amazing how many people can relate to this. You know, even going back just recently, I've never bought the latest cell phone. I never buy expensive clothes. I don't buy clothes at all. You can see me. If somebody gives me a t-shirt, that's the t-shirt I'll wear. Anyway, long story. Bought this, paid a lot of money for it. My girlfriend and I saved up together. This car was absolutely pristine. Kept it stock. Didn't have the money to modify it. Soon after buying this, girlfriend cheats on me. Trying to do the right thing. We sell that car. Whatever money we make from it, we split up. She gets half. This was my first car. I was 17. This is in England, as you see by all the spotlights. I was heavily into rally. That's a big thing in England. This is a Mitsubishi Colt. It's called something different in the States. I think they used to call it a Colt something or other. Colt. I don't remember what it was. Long story. This had a 4-speed transmission with a high and low gear next to it. It's kind of unique, and a friend of mine was into these cars. It was a 5-door hatchback, and the black, you can't tell the black goes across the front, down the sides. The car was rusted, so I fixed the bodywork along here, and I didn't know how to match colors, so this black is painted with rattle can. I was, 1987. I was pretty young. These spotlights was our big thing. Each one of them was 100 watts. These was 100 watts. These were 125 watts. I'd got an alternator built by somebody to run these. I had dual batteries. I mean, I was Mr. Rally Car. We used to take it down the back roads and drive as fast as we can down these back roads. There's nobody on the roads. You're going through here pretending you're a Mr. Rally Car guy. Awesome little car, absolutely fantastic. Learned so much from building this, changing carburetors. Didn't know what I was doing, but I was changing carburetors. Ended up buying a manifold and turbo from a junkyard from a Mitsubishi Cordia, I think it was. Put it on. I had no idea what we're doing. Car did go faster though. Had no clue if it was safe, if it was on the edge. Anyway, very first car. So fast forward to 1994. At first, right after my first car, I learned a little bit from the people with the auction and found out you don't have to go through them to buy cars. You can actually trade cars, buy and sell and barter and stuff. Quick history about this car. My girlfriend at the time was into Mustangs. I was trying to get her into Hondas. She said my dream car is a Mustang. So this is actually a funny story. She's gonna see this and think it's hilarious. I said, you know what? Let me get you a Mustang, and if you don't like it, we'll get you back into a Honda. Honda's really where you need to be, but I know you like Mustangs. I bought this off a guy for $300. It had no second gear, so it was an automatic. He went from first, immediately went to third. The thing was terrible to drive. The driver's seat wouldn't stay upright, so there was a spare tire behind the seat, so that when you lean back, you're leaning against the spare tire. The top had broke, and it takes two people really wrestling it to get the top down and top up. So as you can kind of see, I'm setting this car up for her to hate it. I'm trying to make her hate Mustangs. And again, some of my psychology back in the day. So I wash it, clean it up, make it look good. I go, hey look, I bought you a Mustang. She gets in it and she's trying to be nice. She wanted a 5.0 Mustang convertible. I go, this is the same thing. It's a 5.0 Mustang, just has a smaller engine. So she drives it. What's wrong with the seat? Why does it shift so funny? I go, but this is just the way these shift. Mustangs shift rough. You just got to get used to it. And the tops, you don't want a mechanical top because the brake, this one's already broke, so you don't have to worry about it. And then of course the seat, the tire behind the seat. I go, that's so you've got more room in the trunk. The trunk has so much more room. We get the spare tire out of there, but you've still got the safety of the tire behind the seat. Anyway, that's what's going on with that car. It's kind of funny. But yeah, look at that thing. You think I'm made to hate Mustangs? This was a car I just picked up. I saw for sale in the mall. CRX, windows busted out, had a big dent in the side. Bought it off a couple. Bought it fairly cheap, fixed it up, repainted it. Look at that. I was working for a friend temporarily, selling cars for him, and he allowed me to buy and sell cars and use his car lot to sell cars. There's the car finished. Sold that car. Bought an MR2. I used to buy a lot of MR2's back in the day. People were afraid of them. They would look in the back and see that engine jammed in that little area and be afraid, if it had a problem. I got to know these cars pretty well. I used to flip these cars, fix the water pumps on them, fix the radiators, that kind of thing. I did tons of MR2's. This was a Pontiac Fiero GT. I don't know what it was about that car. I got more pictures somewhere, but I just fell in love with the car. It sounded great. It had a V6 in it. It was the fastback. Kind of looked like a little Ferrari. I bought that car to sell. Drove it for a while. Maybe 2-3 months. Kept it and then sold it. Kind of thought it was cool. Another MR2. Another CRX. This was the apartments I lived at. It was funny. It was only supposed to have one car per apartment. You'll see in some of these pictures there's 2 or 3 cars that are mine. I used to kind of move them around and make them look like they were somebody else's. This was me flipping cars in an apartment complex. This is a white CRX HF. Long story, I bought this car because I had a CRX SI at the time that was my nice car. It was at the paint shop. Paint shop kept telling me, oh, another week. Well, the Nopi Nationals was coming up, and I think it was the No Pay Nationals in '95, and I really wanted to go, so I bought this HF car just so I could go. I went to the No Pay Nationals with a buddy. Loved No Pay Nationals. And that was my Pontiac Fiero GT. It had the little intake here. It had an exhaust on it. Again, thought that was the coolest car. Never had an American car, so that was my first American car. So there's another car that I bought. Long story on this car. I bought it on the side of the road. One of the first Hondas I bought to flip. Didn't know much about it. This was a '85 Civic. Well, hit the key, it would crank, sounded okay, just wouldn't start. Thinking, okay, I'm gonna make some money on this. I think I paid $300 for this car. Towed it from the other side of town with my other CRX, that super nice CRX that you saw. Use it to tow this, and had my girlfriend driving this. I'm driving the CRX. Had about an 8-foot tow rope, scariest thing in the world, driving it through rush hour traffic. Started working on this car, found out I had a broken cam. Cam broke right at the cam gear. Had to find a cam, ruin the cylinder head, found a cylinder head. Long story, lost money on that car. Spent a lot of time getting it right, making it run. Lost money on it. This was a Pontiac Formula. I was buying and selling for this guy at the auction, and I had a dream about this car the night before. I don't have dreams about cars. Well, I do, but I don't have visions. I'd envisioned this car coming through the auction and having smoke coming out of it, and me being able to buy it really cheap, thinking it just had an oil leak and all these guys scare away from it. I buy it, make tons of money. I go to the auction, here's this car coming along. It's smoking, it's limping along. I go, that's the car. I bid on it, buy it. I think I paid $1,500 for it. Get it back. It had a ruined motor. Motor's completely ruined. Had to sauce a motor. First time doing this. Rebuilding a 302 or a 305, whatever it was. I don't know. It was an old V8. So that was that car. Fixed it up. Only just sold it. Good looking car. This is again back in the 90s. This was a dream car of mine from England, the Mitsubishi Starion. It was also known as a Dodge Conquest here as well. But this was a Mitsubishi Starion. I used to dream about this car, right into school, seeing one of these cars on the road going, oh my god, that is the ultimate car. One day, it's kind of like that aspiration of owning a Ferrari, and then you get a Ferrari and it's not as good as you thought it should be. Bought this car. First off, I didn't fit in it. These cars are pretty tight. It had the infamous blown head gasket. Fixed the head gasket. Realized I didn't want the car. The kind of cheesy things we used to put on the window. Bosses on vacation, we're making deals. It's pretty funny. That silver car next to it, by the way, the CRX, that was my car too. So bought that, got rid of the Starion, bought this. This was a Mitsubishi Talon. This was like a dark cherry, all-wheel drive, turbo. Thought this would be an awesome car to keep. Again, just flipped that. Another CRX, the Mitsubishi Talon, the Eagle Talon again. Actually, one of Mitsubishi Talon is an Eagle Talon. See the Eagle badge? Same thing, Mitsubishi. Another MR2, really nice red one, white one. Another MR2. Traded MR2 for a guy with cash plus this S10. Bought this S10, didn't know anything about it, but I knew people love trucks. Got the truck, fixed it up, cleaned it, put it on the lot, sold that too. This was my apartment. Bought this Nissan truck off a guy, and again, didn't know about air conditioning. We don't have air conditioning in England, so I didn't know how it worked. Obviously, I know the system's pretty well now. Back in the day, I remember you press the AC button, it gets cold. He sells me the truck. All the AC's broke. I don't know how to fix it. You're mechanical, you can fix it. Buy the truck. Really, really good truck. Get it home. There's no air conditioning in it. It came from the factory, no air conditioning. I'm going through wires, checking everything, looking under the hood. I don't know what I'm looking for. It doesn't have a compressor. So anyway, drove that for a year in the hot Florida sun. Two cars I bought. This was a Nissan Pulsar NX. This was a Toyota Corolla. That one was smashed in the side. Fixed that, put some parts on it, fixed this car. Again, this is at my apartment. Another MR2 here. Again, I used to buy tons of these. This was my little truck for sale over here. There's another one I had. Again, this apartment complex was right off Gandhi. I knew the person, the property manager, the girl in the office. She would allow me. She said, just don't, you know, overdo it. Well, one time I had 5 cars there. And again, it was like borrowing money off this person to buy this car. Once this car sells, pay that person back. I was very, very poor back then, but this was what I did to live. This is what I did to make money. I used to buy and sell cars, borrowed money off my parents, borrowed money off friends. Did okay, did live. There's a picture of the Starion at the apartment complex. Again, I thought that was the baddest car in the world until I drove it. I realized I didn't like it. I'm sure this would be worth more now. This was in the 90s. $39.95. I think I sold it for $3,700. This was the car lot. Same picture. There's the Mitsubishi Starion. There's my silver CRX DX at the time. That was the car I bought after we sold the really nice red one I told you about. The money I used from that, I think we sold that car for $6 grand. I bought this for $3 grand. I think I bought my girlfriend a CRX for $2,500 at the time, and the remaining $500 fixed her car up. You know, put a timing belt on it, made it, you know, tried to do the right thing. She cheated on me, but I couldn't leave without a car. I'm not a bad guy. There's back to the picture of my first CRX. But yeah, that was the car we sold. Went from a CRX SI to a CRX DX with some chrome wheels on it, but you know, these things happen. They kind of teach you some of these lessons that come along. They're not ideal, but you do learn from them. Fast forward, after I owned LHT Performance, as you see, that's the original logo right there. Back in 1997. This was a CRX HF. Fixed it up the way I wanted it. HF wheels. This was a whole bunch of cars I'd worked on. This was when we very first started LHT. This was my green one, the one that was getting painted. The one I told you about, it was getting painted while I drove the HF to Nopi. It was a friend of mine's car in England. That is, in England, a Vauxhall Astra. It's either an SIR. No, this is a GTE. This was a hot car in England. You could not get insurance for this car. They do not want you in that car because they know you're going to either wreck it, get it stolen, or worse. So they would make the insurance so high you couldn't get into it. And one of the engine swaps I did, that was my friend's Type R right after he bought it. That was in the old LHT shop. B18C5 in my CRX. I believe I was one of the first to put a B18C5 in a CRX, brand new. Did a hydraulic clutch on it before anybody even thought about this, changing the clutches. I had nothing but problems with transmission, so did the exhaust coming out the passenger side. I really liked that. Molded the bumper, made it look like it should be in there. Mugen header, thought Mugen headers was the best thing in the world. Had to make one fit on a CRX. Made an Integra airbox work. Again, all the kind of stuff that I learned. This was a brand new Mitsubishi Evo I bought in 2004. I thought I'd always grown up loving the Evo. Finally get to a point where I can save for the down payment. Bought the Mitsubishi Evo, drove it, started working on it. It's actually a funny story. I'd done an exhaust, a downpipe, an intake, a tune. The car was making like 325 to the wheels, and it felt pretty quick. I just finished doing some work on my girlfriend's CRX at the time, different girlfriend. I'd put a B18C5 in her car, header, intake, exhaust, tune. The car made like 185 to the wheels. We're working on her car late one night. We leave from the shop, 11 o'clock, decide to do a little, you know, side-by-side race in Mexico. Run from about 50 mile an hour, we hit it. I put like 3 cars on her, and I'm like, yes, this is good times. Keep running, looking in the mirror, she starts to catch up, get to triple digits. She starts to pull on the side, starts to pull me. I'm making 330, she's making 185, 180, something like that. By the time we get to 120, her car's pulling away. So the aerodynamics really started to take effect. Obviously it's heat soaking, the turbos run out of juice, whatever. That was the nail in the coffin for that car. As soon as that CRX passed me with my girlfriend in it making 180, bye-bye Evo. Lost all love for that car instantly. Replaced it with the infamous yellow Integra Type R, which I did all the work to. Kind of got me noticed. That was my green CRX that I was really proud of. This was at GP Performance on the Nopi Nationals Tour. It's actually funny, I actually know some of these people in the pictures now, but that was my CRX over there. This was more pictures. This was the Nopi Tour. And this when I went to Daytona, did the ride along. This was another variation of my intake on the CRX, on the white CRX. There's a white CRX. See the exhaust coming out the passenger side? And again, I think I was one of the few to do this nice. I didn't leave this all open. This was cut out properly. What we would do is take two bumpers, take the cutout from this side, put it there, that one, that side, weld the bumper. When I say weld, it's plastic weld. Get it repainted. It looked factory. I got so many compliments on those bumpers. And there's another one on my green one. You see actually how well it is. Again, this is in 1997. So a long time ago. Wow, 21 years ago. So there's a quick backstory of some of the cars. There is way more cars. Nobody really likes anybody else's holiday snaps, but everybody likes car pictures. Well, I do. So hopefully I didn't bore you too much. Little thing I thought about doing, give me some feedback. Let me know if you would be interested in us doing question and answers. I get a lot of people asking how about this and where did you meet this person and how did you start this, and if it's boring I won't do it, but there's a lot of people interested in just what brought me here, what brought LHT together, some of the people around me, how I got where I got basically, and also questions about George or Esther. Let me know if that's something you want to do. We'll do a Q&A. We might even do like a podcast type thing. I don't want to do podcasts, but maybe like this, like a YouTube podcast type video where we put the camera up and we just talk. We'll look over the questions or the topics and we'll talk about it and see if it's something you're interested in. If you've ever talked to me on the phone or met me in person, you know that once I start talking about cars, I talk forever. This is something I'm really passionate about, I'm really interested in. I'm a car guy. I don't care if it's a Honda or a Chevrolet or a Ford or a Pontiac. It's a car. If you have a passion for it, I do too. Cars are something that makes you happy, makes you love, gives you something to work for, gives you a common interest with somebody else. All barriers are down when it comes to cars. You can meet someone on the other side of the world. Doesn't matter if they're the same race as you, speak the same language, you immediately have a connection, you get along. I found this everywhere in the world. I see this in SEMA a lot. We go to SEMA every year and I'll run into people from all over the world. Either I've heard of them, they've heard of me, we're looking at a car together and we talk together and you got a common bond right away. It's amazing. So let me know if that's something you want to do. Back to work. No more holiday snaps. Thanks for watching.